Sure, recording is on. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us. I'm Jessie Brand, Director of Programs and Operations for the Global Wellness Summit and Institute. We're so excited to have you here for today's webinar, The Future of Brain Health, Lifestyle Medicine, Vascular Vitality, and Neuroplasticity for Lifelong Clarity. Wow, that's quite a title. Before we dive in, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name and where you're joining us from around the world. Some quick logistics. We recommend choosing side-by-side gallery view at the top of your Zoom window under view because we'll be sharing slides, and that's the best setting for that. Please keep yourself muted when you're not speaking, and I will be muting everyone now. Speakers, just a reminder, you need to unmute yourself when it's your turn to talk. If possible, please turn your camera on. We love seeing your faces and building connections. This session is being recorded, and we will share the replay along with the chat transcript, any important links, and the slide deck in a follow-up email to everyone who registered. Feel free to post your questions in the chat throughout the webinar. We'll do our best to reach as many as possible, but please note that we may not be able to answer them all. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Randy Gold, co-chair of the Lifestyle Medicine Initiative. She'll be guiding us through our discussion today and introducing our incredible panel of speakers. Randy, good morning. Over to you, Melissa, and the group. And Randy, you are muted.
Of course, I'd be the first one to mess it up as the moderator, but that's a good thing. It's an icebreaker. Good morning, everybody from around. Thank you, Jessie, first of all, and thank you to everyone joining us around the globe for today's dynamic and thoughtful, provoking webinar, The Future of Brain Health. We're excited to bring together an expert panel to explore what brain health truly means and why it matters now more than ever. In a world where cognitive clarity, resilience, and creativity are essential for thriving, understanding brain health goes far beyond simply preventing disease, right? It's about unlocking your mind's full potential, nurturing lifelong mental agility, and empowering both individuals and communities to flourish. So today we'll take a deep dive into the science and the practical strategies behind brain health, examining it through the powerful lenses of lifestyle medicine, vascular vitality, and neuroplasticity. Together, these three perspectives form a complete picture of what's truly possible when we bring lifestyle, vascular function, and brain rewiring into one powerful wellness conversation. And echoing what our host just said, we'll begin with short presentations from each of our speakers, and then we'll open it up to the floor for panel discussions and conversations. So, via Q&A. So, like she said, drop your questions in the chat. We'll be watching for them throughout the presentation. And, we really want to hear from you guys, our local and global audience. We'll allocate time at the end to answer as many questions as possible. And anything we don't get to, we'll email you guys back with answers because, we definitely want to address everything. And by the end of the session, we hope that you'll walk away with a clear understanding of what brain health means in today's world, evidence-based recommendations and supporting your brain at every stage of life, practical steps to integrate these strategies into your daily routine and professional practices if you have them. As a special resource, we'll be posting downloadable PowerPoints of today's presentation. And at the end of the webinar, you can revisit these takeaways, share them with your community and family and tribe. We also encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn at Lifestyle Medicine Initiative, part of the Global Wellness Institute, to stay connected to the conversation. So get ready for an engaging discussion. We will inspire, inform, and empower you to be a leader in the future of health, of brain health. So let's get started. And this is exciting for me because first up, of course, is our chair of our Lifestyle Medicine Initiative, Dr. Melissa Sunderman, affectionately known as the Doctor of the Outdoors. Dr. Sunderman is a double board certified internal medicine and lifestyle medicine doctor with additional expertise in integrative and mind-body medicine. She spent more than 20 years practicing medicine, is widely recognized for merging clinical rigor with passion for healing of nature. If you haven't checked her out on LinkedIn, you've got to follow her videos. As the founding chair of the Nature as Medicine subcommittee at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and chair of our Global Wellness Institute Lifestyle Medicine Initiative, Dr. Sunderman is shaping the future conversations on how our environment and daily habits and health transform. She champions the 7 pillars of health: whole food, plant, slant, nutrition, movement, restorative sleep, stress management, social connection, avoidance of risky behaviors, daily time in nature. But Dr. Sunderman doesn't just talk the talk. She actually lives it. I mean, this is going to blow you away. She's an accomplished endurance athlete with 12 Boston marathons, 3 Ironmans, and an ongoing ultra marathon training under her belt. I don't know when she sleeps. Her motto, "Age is just a number," comes to life as she inspires patients and audiences alike to embrace lifestyle medicine as they thrive at any age. You will now see her infectious energy and outdoor-driven approach have made her a sought-after keynote speaker and a beacon for anyone seeking to transform their health from the inside out. It is my honor and pleasure. Please join me in welcoming the dynamic clinician, athlete, and thought leader, Dr. Melissa Sunderman.
Wow, Randy, thank you so much for that introduction. And what a pleasure and joy to be here today. And Jesse, if you could advance the slide. Yep. Oh, there's me. So I am the chair of the Lifestyle Medicine Initiative for the Global Wellness Institute, along with Randy Gold, my co-chair, and you'll be hearing from some of our esteemed colleagues and members later in this presentation. And the Lifestyle Medicine Initiative is a newer initiative for the Global Wellness Institute, and I am so thrilled to be a part of this institution. And I thought I would start with talking about lifestyle medicine because sometimes people or maybe have heard about it, but they're not really familiar. So I'm board certified through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Now, we also do have International Board of Lifestyle Medicine. So it's not just in the United States, we are global. And what is lifestyle medicine? So the definition of lifestyle medicine is the use of a whole food, plant predominant dietary lifestyle, regular physical activity, restorative sleep, stress management, avoidance of risky substances and behaviors, and positive social connection as a primary therapeutic modality for the treatment, prevention, and reversal. Yes, reversal, possible reversal of chronic diseases. We're talking about reversing type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, chronic kidney disease. All of these can be possibly reversed. Now, I'll talk about those 6 official pillars in the next slide a little bit more in depth. So if we can advance the slide, Jesse, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have 6 official pillars within the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So nutrition, food as medicine, and Hippocrates centuries ago said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." So we do advocate for a plant-strong dietary pattern. So a dietary pattern rich in fruits and vegetables and beans and whole grains and nuts and seeds, and trying to avoid highly processed foods. Second pillar, sleep. Sleep truly is our superpower, and we need to get good restorative sleep every night, advocating for aiming to get about 7 hours of sleep each and every night. Third pillar, exercise, which I like to reframe as movement. There's so many ways to move our body. We've become more sedentary throughout the years and decades, and so we want to move our body and bring joy in moving our body. The next pillar is the avoidance of risky substances and risky behavior. So that tobacco, excessive alcohol, drug use, or behaviors that don't serve you, whether that's compulsive gambling, compulsive screening on all of our screens, and compulsive shopping. The next pillar is stress management. And we all have stress in our life, and there's not a pill that takes that away. But what we can do is learn how to fill our stress releasing toolbox, whether that's breathing, whether that's journaling, practicing yoga, meditation. And then the 6th official pillar is the role of positive social connection. We need people and animals and plants and living beings and creatures in our communities. So these are the 6 official pillars of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And lifestyle medicine acknowledges that 80 to 90% of chronic diseases are actually lifestyle driven. That's right. Genes maybe, have some role, but really it's how we turn on or off those genes, epigenetics, and how our lifestyles are so powerful. So I do talk about the 7th unofficial pillar of lifestyle medicine, and that is daily connection to nature and fresh air. Randy did say I am known as Dr. Outdoors. You'll see in my name, I am a DO, Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, but the DO stands for Dr. Outdoors as well. So that sets the stage of lifestyle medicine. And that's what our initiative is all about. We really want to extend not only lifespan, but health span and well span. We're talking today about brain health. And I am a practicing primary care physician, going on almost 30 years. Throughout the course of my career, I have seen and treated and diagnosed dementia, right? Poor brain health. And it is really one of the saddest and most devastating diagnoses to have to give to a patient or give to a family member. No one wants to have to go through this. And we want to learn ways to optimize our brain health. 2019, I was at my first conference for American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and Doctors Dean and Aisha Sherzai spoke about brain health. And it was the first time that I learned that our brain health can be in and under our own control. Okay, so I'm going to talk about going through the pillars of lifestyle medicine, how it's never too early or never too late to make changes that can optimize our brain health. Next slide, please, Jessie. I absolutely love this slide. This is from the Lancet, which is a very reputable medical journal. And this shows throughout the trajectory of our life, environmental influences that we do or don't do have and can impact our cognitive abilities and our brain health. So we are starting even before we are born, not that we have control over that, but knowing that prenatal environments, low childhood socioeconomic statuses, air pollution can be affecting our future brain health. Getting into our 20s and 30s, having alcohol misuse, having a passive job, having low education, personalities that are less resilient. Heading into our 40s, repeated concussions and head trauma, smoking, unhealthy dietary patterns, obesity, getting into midlife, type 2 diabetes, stressful jobs, sedentary behavior, high blood pressure. Getting into our 60s and 70s, untreated mental health, sensory deficit, in particular hearing loss, cardiovascular, cerebral vascular disorders, and getting into our 80s, social isolation. So you can see that throughout the trajectory of our life, we have the power to make choices that can optimize our brain health. And you can stop sharing now, Jessie. I'm just going to talk now, and I'm going to go through. I don't have a lot of time. I wish I had the entire hour, but I have to be respectful and we have to learn from our other colleagues. So I'm going to take you through the 6 pillars, well, actually 7 pillars, and just share a couple of studies and maybe some take-home points about what you can do and what you can advocate for your patients and your clients and your loved ones and yourself. So starting with nutrition, food is medicine. We have the standard American diet in the US, which the acronym is SAD, and it truly is SAD. The bulk of the caloric intake in the standard American diet is going to be these highly processed foods, which are not good for our brain. There is the MIND diet, which stands for, it's a word salad, no pun intended, the Mediterranean DASH diet for intervention for neurodegenerative delay. This was the dietary pattern that Martha Claire Morris from University of Chicago really looked at and then put into some trials with the MIND diet. And so we have the Rush Aging and Memory Project, which involved about 1,000 patients ages 58 to 98. And they were looking at this MIND diet intervention. And what they found were participants that strictly or strongly adhere to this plant-forward dietary pattern. The MIND diet is going to be a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. Again, plant-forward, lots of fruits and vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. So people that really embraced a plant-forward dietary pattern with this MIND diet had about a 53% decrease in the risk of dementia. And people that were moderately adhered, so just did more, plant forward than they had been, just moderately adherents had a 35% decrease in their risk for Alzheimer's. And what they found were people who were really following that MIND diet long term is that they had the cognitive abilities of someone 7.5 years younger. So the take home point here is you do not have to go all vegan, right? I mean, oh my gosh, what if I can never have a piece of chicken or a piece of fish? You don't have to do that. I say try to think about eating the rainbow, right? And filling your plate with things that are fiber rich, that are full of phytonutrients. And that's what the MIND diet is all about. Very Mediterranean forward, and really food is medicine. Moving on to the next pillar of exercise, I like to say movement, because there's so many different forms of movement. And every time we are moving our body, we are generating something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. Think about BDNF as being Miracle-Gro for your brain. Anytime you move your body, you are engaging that hippocampus, you are creating synapses, you are making your brain stronger. A study that looked at brain health and dementia was the UK Biobank study. This is about 80,000 participants, and they wore wrist accelerometers. And what they found were that participants who took at least 3,800 steps per day were able to decrease the risk of dementia by 25%. And if they upped that to about 9,800 steps per day, 10,000 steps per day, you could decrease your risk of dementia by up to 50%. As a practicing physician of many, many years, there is not a pill out there that does this. This is how powerful these lifestyle interventions can be for our brain. So that is taking steps, moving your body. But what about resistance training? I'm 55. I'm in that, postmenopausal resistance training. We all need this. Our brains need this too. And in particular, lower body resistance training is very good for our brain health. So doing those squats, anything you can do to engage those large muscles, those quadriceps. A study looking at resistance training where people who had mild cognitive impairment underwent resistance training 2 to 3 times per week for 6 months. And what they found at the end of that intervention is that 47% of those participants who had impaired cognitive testing had normal cognitive testing after this intervention. So moving your body and resistance training, good for your brain. Moving on to sleep. Sleep is our superpower. Throughout my years of residency, when I pulled 36-hour shifts, I was like, I am superhuman. I don't need sleep. And I could not be further from the truth. Now that I've read the studies, I'm like, sleep is necessary. We advocate for trying to get at least 7 hours of sleep. 7 to 9 hours would be optimal. And when you are sleeping, your brain is incredibly active. And one of the cool things that happens when we sleep is that we engage something called the lymphatic system. We've all heard about the lymphatic system, right? When you get sick and your neck gets a little swollen, that's a lymphatic system trying to drain away and get rid of those toxins or that bacteria, that infection. Well, in your brain, you have the glymphatic system. So when we get into deep sleep and our sleep cycles and getting at least 7 hours, that glymphatic system is going to rid your brain of all of the tangled proteins and toxins that have accumulated throughout the course of the day, amyloid protein, tau protein. So that is very necessary. So the Whitehall 2 study, which looked at sleep deprivation and whether that affects brain health, found that participants who were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, who were getting suboptimal sleep, meaning 6 hours or less on a consecutive basis, they were at an increased risk of dementia by up to 30%. Okay, so really making sleep a priority and aiming to get at least 7 hours of sleep every night. Also, important to know if you have obstructive sleep apnea, OSA, and maybe your partner says you snore a lot or you are gasping for air, get tested because untreated sleep apnea could double your risk of dementia. Moving on to risky substances. Alcohol, we used to say, hey, maybe a glass of wine here or there is good for you. And I think everyone, the consensus is, it's not that you have to be completely abstinent, but know that there is no benefit to consuming alcohol. So Given the choice, I do say try to avoid it as much as you can, right? Having a special occasion like the Blue Zone, say, wine at 5. So if it's a social and something that you're enjoying, I think that's okay, but you don't need it for optimizing your brain health or any part of your other health. So best to just try to avoid risky substances in general. Next, stress. Again, we all have stress in our life. What can we do about that? And how does stress affect our brain health? There was a study that looked at midlife stress. And we talk about midlife chronic stress. We're not talking about, my gosh, I have this pretty blouse on and I was getting ready for this webinar and I spilled coffee on it. That's stressful, upsetting. We're talking about these midlife stressors of I'm in a toxic marriage that I can't get out of because I can't afford to live my own, or I have a 25-year-old child who is struggling with mental health and I worry every single day, or I have an 87-year-old father who is living with dementia and needs help and I'm just chronically stressed. These are the stresses we're looking at. And unfortunately, the data shows that that chronic ongoing stress can impact our future brain health. So the antidote to that is practicing stress management. And I know that we have wonderful initiatives that look at this. So looking at deep breathing and breathing techniques. I know Sandy Abrams is on this call and all of her breathing, journaling, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, really engaging these stress modification practices. Next, social connection. We all went through one of the largest social psychology experiments during the lockdown where we didn't get to see our loved ones and hug them, and we all felt this void. Well, it turns out that social isolation and loneliness affects our brain health. Dr. Vivek Murthy, the last Surgeon General, had his Surgeon General advisory about the health implications of loneliness, and it actually increases our risk of dementia. So stay engaged, find ways to stay engaged. They looked at studies of gray matter, and we found that as we get older, the more socially engaged we remain, our gray matter remains in our brains. So find people. You don't have to be at parties every day, but engage with friends, engage with other people, family members, colleagues, places of worship, stay connected. And then we talk about nature. And Hippocrates was also a doctor outdoors, and he said the physician treats, but nature heals. And we're getting more and more studies looking at all of the health benefits of nature. I could talk about that for a whole hour, but there was a study looking at exposure to green spaces and blue spaces. Green spaces, forests, trees; blue spaces, bodies of water. And what they found was there was a decreased risk of hospitalizations related to neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, the more time spent around green spaces and blue spaces. So this is quick, the down and dirty. And what I say to my patients and to my friends and family is just try to be 1% better, right? If I gave you all of these things and you're like, Dr. Sunderman, I cannot make all those changes. Think about anything is better than nothing. And it's never too early, never too late. Maybe put a couple more fruits and vegetables on your plate. Maybe take a few more steps. Maybe get an extra hour of sleep. Maybe practice some breathing and some mindfulness. Maybe connect or call a loved one or a friend or family. And then, of course, get outdoors. So with that down and dirty, quick rendition, just know that you have the power today and every day to optimize your brain health through the pillars of lifestyle medicine.
Amazing. Amazing. Great. I mean, Dr. Sunderman, you always just describe these pillars in a way that that's relatable. And obviously your knowledge is amazing for us, inspiring and empowering in every perspective. So thanks for reminding us the path to a healthier brain starts with the choices that we make every single day. A powerful takeaway, which is what we want you guys to take forward. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, it's just the beginning. There's another vital piece to this puzzle, and one that often goes overlooked: the profound connection between our heart health and our brain function. Up next, we'll explore this critical relationship and why protecting your heart may be one of the most important things you can do to preserve cognitive vitality. So next up, welcome all the way from Dublin, Ireland. We are honored to welcome Dr. Robert Kelly, a visionary voice in the global lifestyle medicine movement, a world-class interventional cardiologist. Dr. Kelly has redefined what it means to protect heart health, blending advanced clinical expertise with powerful everyday well-being strategies to help people live longer, healthier lives. He's an associate professor of clinical medicine, a senior lecturer in lifestyle medicine, a certified Tiny Habits coach, and a fellow of multiple international cardiology societies. But what sets Dr. Kelly apart is his focus on the power of small, sustainable actions, micro habits, and it is passion for helping people unlock the heart, mind, body connection through practical daily choices. You'll hear insights like your heart regenerates while you sleep. Treat it like sacred time, and consistency wins. An inspiring TEDx speaker and a global lecturer, Dr. Kelly shows how even the smallest steps can drive life-changing results. With that said, please join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Kelly.
Thank you so much, Randy. I don't know if I should speak after all that great compliments you've given me. And certainly Melissa, I suspect, has covered everything that myself and the other speakers are to share. I am from Ireland, as Melissa introduced herself, as an American College Lifestyle Medicine Board certified. I am the International Board Certified Lifestyle Medicine Doctor in the panel. And I've done that examination, for those of you who want to get certified in lifestyle medicine, is equivalent to what Melissa has. And I have one other distinction that Randy didn't share, is that I'm on the board of the European Lifestyle Medicine Organization. So I saw there's a lot of callers from around Europe also on the call. And the European Lifestyle Medicine welcomes people who have any interest in lifestyle medicine beyond just physicians. So follow me up in relation to that if you want to. So my job is to share with you about the vascular aspect of brain health. I suppose that's what links the heart, the cardiovascular piece. And my first slide highlights a recent paper from the Stroke Journal, which is, go back a slide, Jesse, sorry if you can. So the slide highlights the principle around what vascular brain health is. And vascular brain health refers to the importance of an optimal structural and functional aspects of your brain's vascular system. And so if you want the blood vessels of your brain to work properly so that you preserve your brain, and so you have this cognitive reserve, or alternatively, if you don't look after the blood vessels in your brain or the blood vessels that get to your brain, well, then you're going to reach a situation that Melissa mentions, including dementia and other conditions. And so there are many factors involved in this conversation, including your age. The genes have a small role to play, the environment that you live in, but also what the state of your brain is in relation to its pathology, whether you have underlying vascular conditions, or whether you have any vascular risk factors. And that's what I'm going to cover in the next few slides. So Jesse, next slide, please. So when you look at the vessels, or the blood vessels that go to and through your body, you can see in the bottom slide, there's a picture of your heart, or at least I hope you can identify your heart. It's that organ in the middle of the picture in the bottom left. And out of your heart comes a number of different pipes or blood vessels that go up and down different parts of your body. And given the fact that your head is at the top of the picture, that is how your brain receives its blood supply. Now, on the slide above that you can see, or the picture above, you can see that there are blood vessels in red that go into and around your brain. And the challenges that happen for people is that sometimes the blood vessels get blocked. So the blood vessel can get blocked on the way in where your carotid arteries are, and that can cause you to have a stroke where you will actually lose part of the brain's function or all of it unless you receive treatment immediately. Or you can have a stroke that lasts just a few moments due to the same effect, and that's called a mini stroke or a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. Now, the other thing that can happen to your blood vessels is that they can burst. And sometimes you see that in very young people. Sometimes you see it in older people because of high blood pressure. So that's the brain hemorrhages. And sadly, the consequence from the vascular health perspective is if you have a stroke or a brain hemorrhage, then you have a 20% risk of developing dementia. The other significant factor is, unfortunately, there's a high mortality associated with having a stroke or even having a brain hemorrhage in particular. And the vast majority of strokes are not brain hemorrhages. The vast majority of strokes happen for some of the reasons I'm going to share with you on the next slide. So if you get on the next slide, please. So Melissa kind of stole my thunder a little bit because we both went to the same reference in the Lancet for different reasons. And I suppose it's very relevant to share with you that the risk factors that you consider for dementia, for a stroke, for any illness related to your brain are the exact same as relate to your heart. And in fact, most of them are the exact same that relate to your cancer risk. So what unifies every single illness in your human body is actually lifestyle medicine. And all of these risk factors, as you can see, the ones related to dementia in particular here, include early on in life, the environment you've grown up on, your level of education, all those different social determinants of health are very important. Clearly, it's very important if your mom or your dad happens to have a health condition. But as you move along through the journey, the important things to see, both in common to heart health and to brain health, are the factors such as the diabetes, the smoking, the cholesterol, the blood pressure, obesity, the addictions of alcohol and smoking, physical inactivity, social connection. And there are a few other factors that are mentioned as well, all, as Melissa highlights, completely preventable. And as Melissa says, 80% of the chronic diseases of this world are due to those lifestyle factors, and they are all preventable. Just think how much healthier, how much longer we could all live for if we just took a little step towards doing something with those pillars. And I think that's the really, really important point that Randy tried to emphasize, where I spend a lot of my time just trying to get the patients to make one small little step. Melissa calls it 1% better every day. So let's go to the next slide, please. So just to highlight related to the vascular aspects and to mention one other. So it's talked about high blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, inflammation in the brain blood vessels, your body weight or obesity, your family history of any of those conditions, or your family history of strokes, your family histories of heart attacks, addictions Melissa has covered. But here's a really important one when it comes to your heart, and that is a risk factor called atrial fibrillation. And atrial fibrillation is very common in about 40% of the population when you get over the age of 60. So it's really, really important. And that condition is a disruption of the rhythm of your heart that increases the risk that you are going to develop clots that come out of your heart, and the clots travel up the main arteries into your brain. And unfortunately, that's one of the commonest causes of why people have strokes. And atrial fibrillation is very common in the setting of high blood pressure. Melissa mentioned sleep apnea a minute ago. Sleep apnea is a big cause of high blood pressure. So if you get a lot of high blood pressure, particularly at night, you might say, well, why is it high? You might be thinking of sleep apnea, or your partner might discover you're snoring. The other one that you get with that is where you get very restless legs in bed, which can also cause a lot of sleep disruption, contributing to poorly controlled blood pressure, increasing the risk for atrial fibrillation. So atrial fibrillation is one of those conditions that sometimes you don't know about. And very sadly, a lot of people who present with strokes, it's the first time that you pick up atrial fibrillation. And then I do want to emphasize, Melissa mentioned it as well, are those non-vascular factors that come up in life. So if you have played a lot of sport, particularly contact sport like American football, or you have received a bang on the head with a baseball bat, or you have played rugby and those sort of sports in this part of the world, the impact of repeated head trauma or the impacts of recurring concussions are something that of themselves can lead to significant brain health issues later in your life. So it is really, really important, because the other thing is that if you apply those lifestyle factors, it was mentioned, those epigenetic factors reduce a family history risk, but they also impact and reduce the risk of developing illnesses like dementia and the risks that relate to developing the vascular diseases. So you still have a potential, even if you've had multiple bangs to the head in your previous time, to minimize the risk that you will have for developing brain health or brain disease issues. Next slide. Jesse, the next slide when you're ready. So what can you do? So I would suggest that the most important thing you can do is to have a physical or a medical with your own doctor. I think that's the most invaluable thing, because most of you won't know the numbers for some of these tests. So your blood pressure being checked is probably the most useful, easiest thing you can possibly do, because most of you won't know what your blood pressure actually is unless you've gone and got it checked by a doctor. And, you know, if you can pick up your blood pressure, you can treat it. But ideally, we're all saying here you can prevent these things. Having some check in your heart rhythm to pick up atrial fibrillation is the key factor. Keeping an eye on what your body weight is relevant to you. Having some blood tests, which we can go into if somebody asks any questions about that. Getting pictures of the arteries, like a carotid artery ultrasound or a CAT scan. There's a CAT scan of the arteries of the heart, which is superb at identifying plaque in your arteries. An ultrasound of your heart called an echocardiogram can see if you've any clot in your heart or see if your heart is working okay, or increases some of the risks of those conditions that were mentioned. And then there are different dedicated brain scans, like an MRI scan of your brain, which can identify perhaps you've had a stroke in the past and you didn't realize it. Perhaps you have some of these conditions. And then there are other functional tests that are really, really important. I showed in the slide, as did Melissa, the importance of getting your hearing checked out. Unfortunately, a lot of us, when we get a little bit older, we don't hear so well. And it's really, really important, if you let that go for a long, long time, how it can impact your brain health very easily. Certainly contributes to the isolation and the social connection, the issue that came up. The same is true of your sight. You know, macular degeneration and other conditions as you age, again, have impacts on your brain health as well. And those tests, are those acronyms at the bottom, MMSE and MOCA. They're fantastic tests that the doctors can do with you to see if your brain is actually working properly. So you actually do a number of different functional tests in terms of understanding how well the brain is actually working. So there's a lot of those available actually online. There's a lot of different apps that you can engage with yourself if you want to get a bit of an insight as to whether you think your brain is actually working as well as it should be. So we have one more slide to share, I think, or two actually, in fact. So the bottom line for all of you is that your vascular health, because it reflects your blood vessels throughout your whole body, is really the most important factor when it comes to your brain health. So looking after your vascular health, looking after your blood vessels, looking after your heart, the rhythm, how the heart is actually working. And there's some wonderful research studies. They're published in relation to Life's Essential 8, which are the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, but it also includes high blood pressure, diabetes, as well as identifiable risk factors for health risk. And sadly, in the United States, the amount of people who have the optimal 8 out of 8 is about 10% or less of the population. So we have a long, long way to go. I'm sure it's not better in my part of the world either, but there's good studies to show those factors relate to the risks for all forms of disease and also give you a path in terms of improving that. And in terms of improving that, if you want to live long and have a healthy brain, well, then you've got to take the steps now. Prevention is your cure. As I've said, seeing your doctor every year is the best way to know how you're getting on. And more importantly than anything else, you have to take personal responsibility here. You have to do this. We can't do it for you. Neither can your parents do it for you. Neither can your doctor do it for you. What I feel is really, really important is you make behavior changes every day to keep your brain healthy. And for some of you, Melissa's mentioned all the factors. I would add reading a book, learning a language, travel. My wife tells me to tell everybody, particularly women, go to the hairdresser once a week and get your hair done. Turn the phone off, go and have a massage, do things that you like in life, because believe it or not, they are exceptionally good for your health, both for your heart and for your head. The last thing I'll comment about is the executive, because I was asked to give a small mention to it. The reason I've given a small mention to it is because the executive brain health is the exact same as everybody else's brain health. Because you're a senior executive in a company does not make your brain any different to anybody else's. But the reality is, if you want to look after your brain because you're worried whether you're going to be the best person in the company when you're in your latter stages of your working life, well, then you need to follow the same principles as I've just shared with you, which is to look after yourself. And more importantly, the whole emphasis there is looking after your self-care first. The company won't have any value from you if you've had a stroke or you've had a brain injury. The company will only have value for you if you look after your health. So that's the last message I'd like to share with you, because you're all the CEOs of your own lives. Thank you very much for asking me to do this, Randy, and I look forward to seeing and answering any questions that people have.
Wow, amazing, amazing, Dr. Kelly. And again, we're encouraging you to please put your questions in the chat, as we'll have time at the end to address all of you. And I'm sure you have a lot of questions so far for both Melissa and for Dr. Kelly. And again, another takeaway and a powerful reminder that our heart and brain are deeply intertwined. The connection between vascular health and cognitive vitality is so often overlooked. So thank you, Dr. Kelly, for bringing into such clear focus what that means. And now we are going to turn it over to another exciting frontier, the power of the brain to adapt, heal, and grow at any age. So that gets us to next up. I'm truly honored to introduce Dr. Alison Levitt, a physician who reminds us that one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves at any age is a healthy, adaptable brain. Dr. Levitt's a nationally recognized leader in lifestyle longevity medicine, regenerative medicine, and functional medicine. Her work centers on a powerful idea that the brain's ability to adapt, heal, and grow through neuroplasticity is something we can actively nurture through the choices we make every day. And today, you'll leave this session with both inspiration and practical tools to protect your brain and help it thrive. So now please join me in welcoming Dr. Allison Levitt.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. It's challenging following such amazing speakers. I think there's going to be some overlap, but I hope I can offer some new information for everyone to help improve their brain health. I'm guessing you're on this podcast because you know somebody, a friend, a relative who may have some type of brain disorder, whether it's dementia, Alzheimer's, or maybe you're a woman who's navigating menopause and you have debilitating brain fog and you're frustrated, trying to understand how you can help yourself. How are you going to get through this mental haze? Or perhaps you're just walking, you're the kind of person who forgets your keys and you're thinking, is this normal at my age? Do I need to really worry about this? What can I do to make this better so it doesn't progress? Whatever brought you here, I'm here to let you know that your brain can change. It can get better. Your brain is very adaptable. If we give your brain the right ingredients, your brain can continue to thrive, to learn, adapt, and improve. Whether you're young, middle-aged, older, your brain has the potential to grow stronger, sharper, and more resilient. And this, in part, is due to what's known as neuroplasticity. Next slide, please, Jessie. Thanks. Oh, there's one before that. Oh, sorry, go back one. The definition of neuroplasticity is actually on the first slide. Okay, so the definition of neuroplasticity is the brain's incredible ability to adapt, reorganize, and form new neural connections. And this can happen throughout our entire lives. And I do mean our entire lives. Even as we age, even if it doesn't feel like it, our brains can constantly learn new things and get better. We just have to know what the ingredients are to make that happen. And the key to neuroplasticity is consistency. So you have to take something new, something challenging, and if you have intense focus and you add repetition, this engages a lot of nerve cells in the brain and it creates new nerve cells, new pathways, which then drives neuroplasticity. So I thought maybe we could do a really quick exercise so I can show you how this works. Hopefully I can't really see everybody, so I'm just gonna hope that you want to chime in and do this. Okay, so we're gonna take your right hand and we're gonna tap our thumb with our index finger. And this is really easy. Anyone can do this. I can talk while I'm doing it. It doesn't require a lot of brain effort. And now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna tap my middle finger, my ring finger, and my pinky finger. This is all with your right hand. Okay. Now we're going to engage the left hand and we're going to start with the pinky finger, go to the ring finger, middle finger, index finger. And now we're going to do this simultaneously and watch what happens. So left hand, right hand, let's go. One tap on each finger. I can't even do it and talk at the same time, but if you're trying this, you'll see that it's quite challenging. It's going to require focus. And when it requires that much attention, that much focus, that means that you're creating new neural pathways in your brain. This is how learning happens. This is how new connections in your brain happen. So for neuroplasticity to work, we have to give the brain the right ingredients, the right strategies, and we also need to learn what prevents this from happening. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. As Dr. Sunderman mentioned, simple lifestyle changes, sleep, well, they're not simple, but lifestyle changes like sleep, nutrition, exercise help build the foundation for optimal brain health. Dr. Kelly talked about optimal blood flow. But there's more to this brain health story. And I see this in my practice a lot because I have a lot of patients who are coming to me wanting to restore their brain health or wanting to optimize their brain health. So let's talk about some of the things that may be hidden in our lives that could be preventing us from having optimal brain health, like optimal hormones. Also, things in our environment that can greatly impact the way our brains function that we're not even aware of. Next slide, please. So our homes for many of us are healing sanctuaries. They should be safe places, places to retreat, to heal, to recover, to thrive. What's interesting is what's happening today is we're discovering that the home can be a source of many hidden dangers that may be exposing us to chemicals and toxins that can subtly impair our brain function over time, wreaking havoc with our hormones, causing them to malfunction or not function properly. And it can also dramatically affect the health of our little nerve cells, which require a lot of tender, loving care to function properly throughout our lives. They're very susceptible to damage. For example, heavy metals like lead, mercury, aluminum. These are heavy metals that are in our environment, unfortunately, and they can accumulate in our brain, damaging neurons, creating inflammation. And this ultimately impacts our overall cognition. Any inflammation in the brain, actually, if you think about amyloid plaques that are known to be found in patients with Alzheimer's, first, it starts with inflammation. Amyloid plaques are the body's way of trying to heal that inflammation. So we want to try and lower inflammation in our brain. Lead, which used to be commonly found in paint, is no longer in paint, thank God. But if you live in an old house, there may be old paint. And unfortunately now it's in the air, it's in the drinking water. Mercury, which is found in certain fish, some of our favorite fish like tuna, swordfish, Chilean sea bass. These fish that we think, oh, if I eat this, I'll be healthy. They'll help my brain. These can be filled with heavy metals. Aluminum is another example, which is found in patients with Alzheimer's. Aluminum can be found in common household goods like pots and pans, tin foil, things that we can avoid. Also, there's common household products that contain BPA, bisphenol A, found in plastic, water bottles, a lot of our food containers and plastic that we use to cover our foods, phthalates, which I know these are chemical names that you may not be aware of or you may already be aware of, but phthalates are in many products in our homes. Anything that's in your house that's scented candles, incense, perfumes, even our cleaning products, if you look on the label, if it says perfume or scented, they will most likely contain phthalates. These are dangerous for your brain. We don't even understand at this point how much damage these chemicals can do to our brain cells, but we're beginning to unfold that they can be very hazardous. So I want you to be mindful that these are all things that can be found in your house, in common things that we use every day that you can change to optimize your brain health. And we know that they can cause changes in our brain's ability to have neuroplasticity because they do cause inflammation in our brain, oxidative stress, damaging nerve cells. Chemicals like BPA can also disrupt hormones. And we're learning more and more that hormones are very prominent in our brain. Most of us think of hormones in our body, we don't associate problems with hormone disruptors in our brain, but this can have dramatic effects. Just ask a woman who's going through menopause what it's like to have dramatic changes in hormones, fluctuations. Women in menopause tend to have a lot of brain fog, and this is because estrogen is lower. The amount of estrogen we have in our body gets lower. The receptors in our brain of estrogen start to get lower, and this creates brain fog. So if you are a woman with menopause, I wanted to give special mention to that. There is hope. You are not alone, and if you normalize your hormones, you will likely feel so much better, and you will have the opportunity to prevent yourself from further brain disorders, because women who have hot flashes and brain fog are more likely to develop Alzheimer's. So we looked at all of the things that could potentially limit our neuroplasticity. The good news is that a lot of these things are easily changeable, small little changes. As Dr. Sunderman mentioned, Dr. Kelly mentioned, 1% can make big differences in your brain health and its resilience. So what I recommend, some simple things that you could do for you and your family, is swap out your plastic containers for glass. Really easy to do that. Use stainless steel water bottles, glass water cups. try not to use any plastic in your home. If that's possible, make one change a week, even a month would make a big difference because these effects happen over a long period of time. A lot of pots and pans are made with aluminum, so check the label, check the manufacturing information, and if they are, you may want to consider swapping them out for stainless steel or cast iron or ceramic. Really simple changes that you can do that could potentially have a dramatic effect. I also counsel people, let's walk around your home and let's start getting rid of fragranced candles, air fresheners, cleaning products. If you notice they have fragrances, let's think about alternatives that we can use. And there's plenty of alternatives, even just simple vinegar, baking soda, and soap, maybe with some organic essential oil in it, will really make your house clean and smell beautiful at the same time and healthy. And then, since we're talking about brain health, a lot of us understand that optimal brain health requires omega-3 fatty acids. And we're getting that from fish. But what I like to tell most of my patients is if you're eating a lot of tuna and swordfish, why don't you swap it out for what I call the SMASH, SMASH fish group. And this group of fish, which includes sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, wild salmon, and herring, have much less mercury. They're smaller fish, so they don't accumulate mercury, and they're super high in omega-3, so very important for optimal brain health. And if you want to go one step further, maybe you're going to start filtering your water. Get an NSF certified water filter, and this will prevent a lot of contaminants from coming into your home, affecting your pets, your children, your entire family will thank you for that in the long run. And one thing that I found fascinating as I do more and more research into this toxic world is that the dust in our home actually is probably the most toxic accumulation of chemicals. So everything that's in the air settles in the dust. So it's really important, even though it's really hard to do, go around the corners of your house. Maybe you plan to do this with your family once a week or once a month, and just take some vinegar on a rag and get that dust out of your house, because it's accumulating tons of toxins that are in the air, that are floating around, and that your family is walking on and breathing on. And this can dramatically affect your neuroplasticity. The other thing that we're so used to doing, we're scrolling on our phones all of the time. Well, remember what I said about neuroplasticity? It really requires focus, attention. When you're scrolling, it's the exact opposite. It can actually prevent you, or it can decrease your ability to have neuroplasticity. So what I say is, instead of scrolling, go for a walk, go for a run. As Dr. Sunderman mentioned, you can increase your BDNF by doing that, the fertilizer for the brain. But the other beautiful thing about exercise is it makes you sweat. And you can sweat out a lot of these toxins. You can sweat out mercury. You can sweat out lead. You can sweat out microplastics, BPA, PFAS. All of this can come out in your sweat. So if you don't have a sauna, consider just going for a run or getting your heart rate up and sweating. It's a great way to eliminate toxins. Also, you may want to add more fiber into your diet that will bind toxins in your gut. And then cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, broccoli sprouts. These are all vegetables that stimulate your detoxification pathways. So these are imperative foods to keep in your diet in order to keep your brain healthy. And finally, we can go to the next slide. I want to leave you with two, I guess I was going to say two simple tasks. I've already given you maybe 10, but we're going to add two more just for fun that you can do on a daily basis to enhance your brain's neuroplasticity. So remember, neuroplasticity, you need to have a challenge. You need to have something where you're super focused on. So learning a new language, even if you can't embark on such a journey, maybe learn a new word every day. Just do maybe even Wordle or Sudoku. Try a new instrument, things that stimulate the brain. When you do things where you're learning, you will create new neural pathways, and this will keep your brain engaged and active for the rest of your life. The other key thing that I tell a lot of my patients, really simple, is if you eat with your right hand, start using your left hand. If you brush your teeth with your right hand, start using your left hand. Start using your non-dominant hand, brushing your hair, flossing your teeth, brushing your teeth. It's not easy. It actually sounds, oh, I can do this. You try eating with your non-dominant hand. It's kind of fun. You could do it with your whole family. But these are great, simple tools that you can do every day of your life that will enhance your neuroplasticity. And remember, small changes compounded over time rewire your brain for clarity and resilience. You have the power to protect and optimize your brain health. So start today.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Levitt, for a powerful reminder that caring for our brains is an act of self-love. Jesse, we have some time for some Q&A that we've promised the group. Would you like to address or get to some of the chat?
Yes, we have, and I think I can stop sharing the screen. We have fantastic questions. I think, let's see, we have just 3 minutes left. So we'll see that the panelists actually can answer these questions. We have a post call and we'll share the answers in the follow-up email because I think we can get to one. Let's see, we had one from Sherry. Do you want to unmute yourself? Sherry Haiba, are you still on? Otherwise, I can read it. Do
Yes,
TG...
I'm on.
Oh, perfect. You want to quickly ask your question?
Yes, I'm an otherwise healthy person who had a TGA, not a TIA, transglobal amnesia. It was a freaky thing. It was fast. I couldn't remember, then I could. It was gone. I had a myriad of tests. I was comforted, but does that put me at any risk down the line for dementia or any other brain issues?
That's a great question, Sherry. Thanks for asking that. And actually, when I was working at Canyon Ranch, I had a guest who had that experience. The data is inconclusive. There are some studies that suggest there might be an increased risk, slight increased risk, and then other studies show that there are no increased risks. So I think we don't know. Now, that being said, everything that we shared today is going to help prevent that from happening, right? So I think employing the 1% better, the tiny steps, everything that Dr. Kelly, that Dr. Allison shared, and myself is keep working on those because you're going to decrease the risk of that happening. But to my knowledge and research that I've done on my own from my patient who had this is that we're inconclusive whether that increases your risk.
Okay, thank you, I guess.
Thank you. I think we don't have time for more questions. Again, we will get to those. Randy, over to you again.
Yeah, thanks again. And we absolutely will get to him. Thanks again for being part of the global conversation. If you're feeling inspired to take the next step, we warmly invite you to stay connected through our Lifestyle Medicine initiative at the Global Wellness Institute. This community grows stronger with each voice and each contribution. You can get involved by following us on LinkedIn at the Lifestyle Medicine Initiative, and also share your feedback with us and email us. Consider volunteering. I started out a couple of years ago volunteering for the Global Wellness Institute and then becoming an ambassador. So you can get engaged that way. And, you know, let's keep the momentum alive. Together, we can create a future where brain health and lifestyle medicine are embraced by all the essentials. And I just want to shout out to Jesse, Heidi, Susie, Nancy, Michelle, the extraordinary team at the Global Wellness Institute. All of this is possible because of your vision and your leadership and your commitment to fostering this collaboration, sharing knowledge and innovation throughout the world. So it's making a difference for everyone. We're honored to be a part of this. And now Dr. Melissa Sunderman has some breaking news she's going to share with the group, and Jesse's going to close us out.
Yeah, so just real quick, thanks for being here with us for the past hour, and we're so excited to be launching. So we're going to be doing our next webinar on Thursday, September 11th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is going to be really focused on food as medicine. I alluded that is one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine, and two of our thought leaders and experts from the Lifestyle Medicine Initiative will be speaking as panelists. So Leanne Moriello, who is a pioneer, a behavioral scientist in lifestyle medicine and foodist medicine, and Dr. Deborah Duro, who's a pediatric GI and culinary medicine expert. So we are going to be really digging deep into that pillar of food as medicine. We invite you. We hope you can join. That's a typo. So it's September 11th at 12 noon. That's when we will be reconvening. And we'd love for you to come back, and please share this with your friends, your family, and your colleagues.
Thank you, Melissa. We will share the registration for this September 11 webinar in the follow-up email. Again, please share it with your networks. It will also be up on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for this fantastic interactive webinar. Randy, Melissa, Dr. Kelly, Dr. Lewis, it was fantastic to have you here. Thank you everyone for joining us. And we hope to see you soon again at other webinars, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.